thing that I pull out, and then I put a squeezy tube down into my mouth, and then I can drink from a bottle.
The red carpet may look glamorous, but behind the scenes, actors endure pain and suffering for the sake of their craft. From suffocating spandex to skin-tight leather, the most uncomfortable outfits in Hollywood history have left stars gasping for air and begging for mercy.
I was just like swinging about in this super creepy way and like trying to talk to.
In this video, we'll reveal the top 20 excruciating costumes worn by actors and the stories behind the struggles that almost broke them. These are the 20 most uncomfortable outfits worn by actors. Number 1. Tom Holland in Spider-Man. Tom Holland may have the coolest job in the world playing Spider-Man, but it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Being a superhero does come with its own set of challenges, especially when it comes to the iconic suit. It's no secret that the Spider-Man costume is one of the most recognizable in all of comic book history, but most people don't realize how uncomfortable it can be. First off, the suit is designed to cover every inch of Tom's body, so he can't breathe or cool off properly. And the result of that is a lot of sweat, dehydration, and one grumpy superhero. That's not all, because the mask is sewn into the suit, and Tom can't drink water normally. He has to use a straw that's inserted through a tiny hole in order to keep hydrated, which is not at all convenient when trying to save the world.
There's a hole underneath the eye socket where we used to be able to feed a tube down.
Oh no.
And I could drink without taking the suit off.
But the most challenging aspect of the suit is going to the bathroom. Tom has to completely undress every time he needs to go, which is time-consuming and requires some serious planning. Just imagine having to schedule your bathroom breaks 45 minutes in advance or risk delaying the entire production. However, that is the reality of being Spider-Man.
It looks amazing, it feels terrible.
And let's remember the itching. Because the suit covers every inch of his body, he can't exactly scratch any itches, which can be frustrating. In a behind-the-scenes video that was shared by Sony, you can see Tom struggling to scratch an itch on his nose. And speaking of his nose, he can't even use his phone with the suit, and that's how he got so good at liking pictures with his nose.
I can't even use my phone. Yeah. And I'm 23, like I use my phone a lot.
Number 2. Scarlett Johansson in The Black Widow. Regarding superheroes, you may expect their costumes to epitomize comfort, style, and convenience, but unfortunately that's not always the case. Scarlett Johansson learned the hard way while playing Black Widow. You would think that her black one-piece was no big deal, but it was a torture chamber that trapped heat, moisture, and everything else that you wouldn't want on your body. It was so skin-tight that she couldn't even wear underwear, which may sound like a blessing, however, it was not. Just imagine doing all of those stunts, flips, and kicks with nothing to absorb the sweat or to protect your lady parts. And if that wasn't bad enough, the heat, along with lack of ventilation, would cause her to hallucinate during one particularly grueling combat scene. You can't blame her for wanting to ditch the suit and run into a freezer, but that was not an option. Instead, she had to endure hours of shooting, sweat pouring down her body and soaking her socks. It's no wonder that she was happy and relieved when her costume in the standalone Black Widow was released. Number 3. Gal Gadot in Wonder Woman. Gal Gadot may have portrayed the powerful and fearless Wonder Woman, but even she could not escape the discomfort of a tight-fitting superhero costume. The Israeli actress revealed that the costume was so tight that she almost passed out due to a lack of oxygen. Can you imagine being a superhero and almost passing out because your costume is too tight? But that's exactly what happened to Gadot. Fortunately, though, someone on set noticed and then helped her. But the tightness was not the only issue with the costume. It was also quite revealing, shocking some people that she had to wear it while her male co-stars got full sleeves and long pants. When asked if she felt vulnerable in such an outfit, the actress gave a simple yet hilarious response: "No, just cold." Fortunately, the costume had been altered when she began work on her standalone Wonder Woman film. The leather corset was let out just enough to give her breathing room, and it's good to know that the people behind the scenes were looking out for her and ensuring that she would be comfortable. Number 4. Anthony Daniels as C-3PO. Anthony Daniels is a name that may not immediately ring a bell, but if you say C-3PO, everyone knows who you're talking about. The uptight golden robot with manners of an English butler from Star Wars. However, being a constant in the Star Wars universe was quite the challenge for Daniels. In fact, the first day he put on his gilded costume, he described it as being horrible, with no lunch or bathroom breaks. He was locked into that suit and simply couldn't get out. Also, being in the suit can be isolating as well. Daniels says that he's slightly separated from everyone else, and in the early days, people forgot that he was even in there. They would approach him and compliment the costume, but then treat him like an object, forgetting that a human actor was inside. Like a true professional, though, he soldiered on, spending up to 2 hours just getting into the golden cage. Fortunately, over the years, things have improved, and he still has to wear it for long periods, but at least now he can take it off for a while, and the new version he can even put on in 6 minutes, which is quite impressive. Number 5. Paul Bettany as Vision. Paul Bettany may have one of the coolest costumes in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but donning the tight suit for Vision comes with its challenges. According to Bettany, the suit is painful and uncomfortable, with the tight material around the head causing the most discomfort. Despite the discomfort, though, Bettany knows that he's lucky to have played an iconic character. He credits director Joss Whedon for allowing him to play Vision despite his existing role as the voice of Jarvis in the franchise. Bettany is not complaining, but does admit that he does everything he can to avoid wearing the suit. And you really can't blame him. It takes 3.5 hours just to put it on, and then it's worn for 10 hours on the set. With limited visibility and airflow, it's no wonder that he finds it tough to wear for extended periods of time, but the actor's sense of humor stays intact. He jokes that he only wears the suit when getting paid and can rip it off in 30 seconds. When asked by an interviewer if he'd rather go naked or wear the Vision suit all the time, Bettany initially had some questions, but ultimately chose to go naked. He cites that the heat is one of the biggest challenges of wearing the suit, and the idea of not dying of heat exhaustion was too appealing to pass up. Number 6. Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique. Jennifer Lawrence's portrayal of Mystique in the X-Men series was iconic. However, it could have been more rosy for the Oscar-winning actress. Putting on the Mystique costume took a lot of work. Covering her body in blue paint and prosthetics took a staggering 6 hours. As if that wasn't enough, the costume was pretty restrictive. This meant that Lawrence could not sit down while wearing it, making using the bathroom a massive chore. She had to stand up and use a small funnel, which, let's say, is not the most pleasant of experiences. The costume would also eventually develop a distinct smell, which could have been better for everyone involved. Despite all of those struggles, Lawrence kept her word and agreed to rejoin the X-Men series for the third movie when Simon Kinberg signed on as the director. Under his direction, she felt more connected to her character than she ever had before. Number 7. Ralph Fiennes as Lord Voldemort. Ralph Fiennes is undoubtedly one of the most talented actors of our time, and his role as the evil Voldemort in the Harry Potter films is a testament to that. However, his experience playing the Dark Lord could have been a lot more pleasant. The white makeup, latex coverings over his eyebrows, and the fake teeth may have helped him to look the part, but wearing them for extended periods was not at all that easy. Fiennes admitted that he hated wearing his makeup so much that he'd consider turning down a role in the future if it required him to wear special makeup. Getting into character was a time-consuming and uncomfortable process, and it's not difficult to see why the actor may have been reluctant to go through it again. Despite his discomfort, he delivered a bone-chilling performance that cemented his status as one of the most talented actors of his generation. His on-screen contempt for the boy who lived was so palpable that it's hard to imagine anyone else in that role. Number 8. Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. Robert Downey Jr. is a superstar actor who is synonymous with Marvel's iconic Iron Man. But did you know that wearing the Iron Man suit was not at all fun and games for him? In fact, it was quite the opposite. Downey would recently reveal on a talk show that wearing the suit was extremely uncomfortable. He said the helmet slammed down and blinded him, making it impossible to see anything. He also shared that the suit was so uncomfortable that he would consider turning down future movie roles that required him to wear a special costume. The first Iron Man film would be released in 2008, and since the suit has become more complex, Marvel Studios invested in CGI technology, making the suit appear more lifelike on screen. Number 9. Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther. Chadwick Boseman's portrayal of the Black Panther in the Marvel Cinematic Universe was a triumph of both acting and costuming. The regal warrior king looked and felt like a force to be reckoned with, but it turns out that the costume was no walk in the park. In an interview with Comic Book Movie, Boseman described how the restrictive suit made some scenes particularly challenging, even constricting his air supply. He had to find a zen state in order to keep cool during the shoot, and it's no surprise that the suit was uncomfortable, given how much vibranium that Wakanda must have used to make it so bulletproof. They've yet to quite figure out how to make gym shorts as comfortable. But despite the initial discomfort, Boseman eventually adjusted to wearing the Black Panther costume, and even said that it began to feel like a second skin. Unfortunately, Chadwick Boseman passed away, so he'll never get to wear the suit again. However, his iconic character and what it did for movies will live on in infamy forever. Number 10. Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman. Michelle Pfeiffer's portrayal of Catwoman in Batman Returns is iconic. The whip, the suit, the meows, everything worked so well. Or did it? The skin-tight costume was not a bed of roses for Miss Pfeiffer. In fact, it was a nightmare. In an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, she would reveal that the suit was so tight that she had to be sewn into it, and it was the most uncomfortable thing that she had ever worn. She even admitted to feeling a sense of panic upon realizing that she couldn't hear, move, or breathe, which were not ideal conditions for an actress to deliver a great performance. And it's not only Michelle Pfeiffer. Anne Hathaway, who played Catwoman in Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight Rises, also spoke about how difficult it was to get into her own version of the suit. In an interview with Allure magazine, she would describe it as a psychological terrorist that dominated her year. Number 11. Ben Affleck as Batman. Ben Affleck's portrayal of Batman in Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice had audiences in awe with his intense and intimidating presence. However, it was challenging for the actor, as he would reveal in an interview that the Batman suit was a challenge to work with. Affleck shared that finding a comfortable suit was key in getting the role of the Dark Knight correct. He even had to modify the suit to make it easier to put on and off. One of the major issues with the suit was the headpiece, which was made of stiff, leather-like material and attached directly to the cape. This design severely limited his range of motion, and he couldn't move his head without turning his entire body. And of course, this was not the first time that a Batman actor had a stiff neck, as Michael Keaton had a similar issue when he wore a full-body rubber suit in Tim Burton's Batman and Batman Returns movies. Affleck's complaints about the Batman suit were not limited to the headpiece, though. The entire suit was reportedly challenging to wear and move around in. When he was filming, he would often be sweating and exhausted due to the suit's weight and tightness. He had to find a way to perform his role while feeling comfortable and not letting the suit impact his performance. To make matters worse, he was not only an actor in the movie, but also the director of the untitled Batman reboot. This would mean that he had to be present on set the entire time, adding to his problems. Number 12. Tim Curry as the Lord of Darkness. Over the years, Tim Curry has played some iconic roles, and one that stands out in terms of discomfort is his role as the Lord of Darkness in Ridley Scott's 1985 film Legend. Curry signed up for the role before the final design for the character was ready. He was in for a surprise when he realized that more and more of his face would be covered with each new concept art piece. However, being a thorough professional, he went ahead with the role, and boy did he deliver. The process of applying makeup and the costume was no joke. It would initially take 8 hours every day, which was later brought down to a mere 5.5 hours. Can you imagine sitting still for that long while people work on your face and body? It wasn't only his face, though, that was being altered. His hands were fitted with devilish nails and skin, and he had to carry 3-foot-long fiberglass horns that were strapped to his head. The horns were initially too heavy and had to be reduced in order to avoid him straining his back, but in their final form, he found it weird and disarming how light they actually were. At the end of each day's shoot, Curry had to bathe for an hour in order to remove all the adhesives that were applied to his face and body, and he couldn't even remove the makeup by force, as he learned the hard way after losing patience one day and trying to rip the materials off. This would tear up his skin in the process. Ridley Scott had to spend a week shooting around Curry to calm him down after that incident. Number 13. Peter Mayhew as Chewbacca. Peter Mayhew, the actor who played the beloved Chewbacca in the Star Wars franchise, may have had one of the most iconic roles in cinema history. However, his journey into the Chewbacca costume was nothing short of a war. In fact, it was anything but comfortable. Mayhew posted on Reddit that the Wookiee costumes were stinky, itchy, and lumpy, and that he could only wear them for an hour at a time. This cumbersome costume required a painstaking process called life casting, which was used to create the Wookiees' costumes. Creatures supervisor Dave Elsey revealed that the costumes were built exactly like the original Chewbacca costume, making it even more challenging for the actors. Mayhew tried to make the costume bearable, using an undersuit that stopped much of the itching, but it still was not enough. After nearly 4 decades of enduring the uncomfortable costume, he then realized that he was not as recognizable as his Star Wars co-stars, and had to explain to fans that he was not Howard Stern, which must have been a little disheartening. During filming of The Empire Strikes Back, Mayhew faced an even bigger challenge when he passed out from heat stroke due to the suit. In a Reddit Ask Me Anything thread, Mayhew explained that he had collapsed, but the crew was more concerned with the dent on the C-3PO suit on his back. Mayhew might have been a Wookiee, but even he had his limits. Number 14. The Turtles in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles have been a pop culture icon for many decades. Their comic book series and animated television show first gained popularity in the 1980s and 90s, and in 1990 the Turtles made their big screen debut with the movie Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. While the movie was a hit, the costumes that were worn by the actors playing the Turtles were anything but comfortable. They took 18 weeks to complete and weighed around 60 pounds each. The animatronic equipment added to the weight, but also helped to make the Turtles' movements more lifelike. However, the actors still found the costumes difficult to move around in, especially during the action scenes. In addition to their weight and limited mobility, the costumes were also incredibly hot. The actors could only wear them for a short amount of time before needing a break to cool off. Despite the cooling system and the mouth hole, the costumes overheated quickly, causing the actors to lose up to 5 pounds during a single morning up until lunch break. Josh Pace, the actor who played Raphael, had an especially difficult time with the costumes due to his claustrophobia. He would describe it as being an intense relationship between himself and the suit. Even the director, Steve Barron, remembered hearing the actors yell to take the head off during breaks. The costumes were prone to breaking down, with limbs needing to be replaced on a frequent basis, and this made it difficult for the actors to stay in character as costume malfunctions constantly interrupted shooting. Number 15. Jeff Goldblum as the Fly. Jeff Goldblum is known for his charming and comedic performances in movies like Jurassic Park and Independence Day. However, in 1986, he took on a different role in the horror film The Fly, which turned him into a grotesque human insect. To bring his character to life, Goldblum endured a grueling daily routine that involved a full rubber bodysuit and extensive facial prosthetics. The costume would take 5 hours to apply, but Goldblum, who was endlessly delightful, did not complain. He would later say, "It's not comfortable, but it wasn't bad. It was a fun thing to do." The Fly's standout feature was its Oscar-winning makeup effects that were created by Chris Wallace and applied to Goldblum by Stephen Dupuis in a grueling 5-hour process. Number 16. Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. Margot Robbie is an incredible actress who has brought to life the live-action Harley Quinn, and fans have loved her portrayal of the character. However, it should be remembered the unconventional outfit that she had to wear for the role. While some fans have appreciated the attention to detail of the costume, Robbie admitted that she was not comfortable while wearing it. In an interview with the New York Times, she explained that she could justify the wardrobe because her character wears hot pants. After all, they're sparkly and fun, and not because she wanted guys to look at her bottom. But she would also go on to say and admit that she didn't like wearing it. And you really can't blame her. Just imagine having to eat burgers at lunchtime only to have to do a scene where you're hosed down and soaking wet in a white t-shirt. It's enough to make anyone self-conscious. It's worth noting that Robbie is a consummate professional, and she did an excellent job with the role, uncomfortable outfits and all. She tried to get the director to mix up her wardrobe, but in the end they wouldn't budge. Number 17. Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk. Now sure, he got to be part of one of the biggest movie franchises in history, but that doesn't mean that it was easy. In fact, Ruffalo had to wear a man-canceling suit in order to play the part, and it wasn't exactly comfortable. According to him, the suit is a light leotard that compresses certain areas while accentuating others. It's not exactly a flattering look, and it made him the butt of many jokes on set. It was so humiliating, he said, that according to him, all the actors would begin laughing at him because they were in their cool superhero costumes, and he was wearing ridiculous pajamas that made him look like a Chinese checkerboard. However, Ruffalo did not let the suit get him down. He powered through and even managed to find some support along the way. Robert Downey Jr., who played Iron Man in the MCU, was particularly understanding. In the last movie, he came up to me and said, "I have a lot of compassion for you," Ruffalo would recall. And I was like, "Why?" And he's like, "Because I see how hard it is for you to stand around in that costume all day." Number 18. Angelina Jolie as Maleficent. Jolie's costume as Maleficent was uncomfortable for several reasons. Firstly, the costume made her much taller than her 5'7" self. With the addition of horns and wickedly high heels, she was constantly bumping her head into things and hurting herself. Although she did eventually get the hang of it, and it took her a while to become graceful with her new height. The costume would be created by 7-time Oscar-winning effects makeup artist Rick Baker, who designed prosthetics to exaggerate her cheeks, ears, and nose features. The lightweight resin horns were wrapped around her head to make them look seamless, and the process was likened to fastening a diaper. However, some of the head wraps would cause her headaches, and she could not hear through them, but when asked if they should make holes for her ears to hear, she insisted that it was fine as it was. It's safe to say that she was a trooper and brilliant and wonderful to work with all throughout the filming process. Number 19. Naomi Scott as Princess Jasmine. When it comes to playing a Disney princess, it's not all glitter and glamour, as Naomi Scott would discover when she donned Princess Jasmine's wardrobe for the live-action remake of Aladdin. The actress had the daunting task of bringing the beloved character to life, which included wearing about 10 new outfits for the movie while tracing Jasmine's entire life. Costume designer Michael Wilkinson would explain that each outfit was carefully crafted to reflect Jasmine's character development. When she feels weighed down by her sense of duty and responsibility, her gowns tend to be more elaborate, corseted, and restrictive, while in scenes where she begins to experience more freedom, her clothing becomes more flowing and loose. But with all of the stunning outfits came one drawback: the dreaded corset. Scott confessed that she found one aspect of her wardrobe uncomfortable. While the corsets were essential to the structure of some of Jasmine's outfits, they certainly were not the most comfortable item of clothing for a long period of time. Number 20. Jim Carrey as the Grinch. The Grinch costume might have been a holiday classic, but it was anything but jolly for Jim Carrey. The hours of prosthetics, a tight costume of yak hair, and those annoying yellow contacts made for a pretty uncooperative Jim Carrey. He described it as being buried alive on a daily basis and even wanted to quit the movie. Can you imagine the Grinch without Jim Carrey? But on the other hand, he also had difficulty getting into character. Facial prosthetics, clothed head to toe in green yak fur, and larger contact lenses, which the set's artificial snow kept getting into, were all part of the procedure. Carrey characterized the process as being buried alive every day, claiming that it took 8.5 hours. However, chief makeup artist Rick Baker claims that it was closer to 2.5 hours, but in any case, it's still a lot of time to spend in a Grinch costume. Jim Carrey's frustration with the Grinch costume did affect the crew, with makeup artists recalling that Carrey was mean to everyone. Shooting would be delayed as he would disappear and then return to find everything ripped apart. The makeup artist became exhausted and took a break, hoping that he would appreciate his contribution. Carrey and director Ron Howard later asked for him to return, with Carrey promising to change. However, he was also struggling with the horrifying experience of the costume and received help from a torture expert. Ultimately, Carrey spent 92 days shooting in the costume, which caused physical and mental anguish. And that's all for today's 20 most uncomfortable outfits worn by actors. Do share your thoughts in the comments section down below, and I'll see you next time.